Hi guys, myself Chetan. I'm working as an UI lead in the Kalpita Technologies. Today I'll be going to have the session about the SaaS fundamentals. Hope you have been opened the SaaS compiler in the online. Okay, so you'll be opening the all the SaaS compiler. This is a SaaS compiler where we are going to use in this one. Let me reset the whatever the code I have, or let me refresh. First time. Okay, this is a SaaS compiler where online you will get, and you can go to this site and you can open this code and you can try whatever the code we are going to practice here. Okay, what do you before that? What do you use of SaaS? SaaS is nothing about syntactically have some style sheet. It's a syntactically have some style sheet. It is a preprocessor of the CSS, which all the SaaS code has been used and it has been compiled to the basic CSS where you are going to use in the CSS. So CSS is used like a combination like SAS is nothing about we have a combinations of numbers strings number and strings and the functions, and we have the type of what is the type of properties we are going to use. So in the CSS we don't have such called common use of a classes where you can reuse the code we can't have, and nested is not happen where SAS has been overcome of that one, and how we are going to use that nested functions or nested variables and nested function nested classes, or we are going to use in the SAS we are going to see in this video. Before that, I'm going to explain what is this like SAS has two main extension. One is called SCSS, which is commonly used throughout the many applications as of now, and where we are be in the SAS we are going to use with the code interpolation using or on way of the declaration using this the curly braces. Where in the SAS it is the we are not going to use where it has been less used because there will be many confusion because we are not going to the use the notations called curly braces here, where for example in the code if I want to show for n of the class name, this is the class name where you are going to use in the SAS, this is SCSS, and properties called color some color, this is SCSS, where if you are going to use in the SAS you don't want to use the parenthesis, just you have to give in the next line directly color. This is what the main is the difference using the SAS and SCSS. But SAS and SCSS don't have any major difference. The only thing is we are going to use the way of the declaration or way of the framework is they have been chosen for the applications, but be careful while using these are the frameworks in your applications or project, and because don't want to mess up with the SCSS and the SAS. This is a major difference where we have, but all the functions and whatever the variable declaration as used is common in the both. This is the SAS itself has a two extension, one is called SCSS and one is called SASS. Be careful of this one. In the SAS, how we are going to declare a variable using the dollar symbol. We are going to declare a variable in the SAS. Let me go with that. Using dollar, I have a color code, and what is the color? Let me go with the font color. Okay. Now this is what how we are going to use the declare the variables in the SAS, and how we are going to interpret and how we are going to use that in the your CSS properties. Let me give a class name called test. Now if you want to use a color, there are two ways of using the font variables. One you can call directly using the declaration of using a dollar symbol font color, or you can also call using hash where you can call curly braces and the flower brackets. Okay, these are two ways where you are going to call the font variables in the SAS and how it has been compiled. You can also see the compiled version, how it has been compiled. If you give any one of these, you also can compile and you can give the output of the CSS. Okay. Now, if I want to use, let me try how we are going to implement this one. This is HTML, H1, H1 test or hello world. Okay. Now, this is the hello word where I'm going to use. If I want to directly use the SAS using the element name, you can call the element name and you can use the property of color directly. You can call font color. You can see the CS how it's compared. No, if you have changed here, it will change the color code throughout the CSS wherever you have used that variable. So this is what the use of the declaration and interpolation of the font variables in this. And there is a font variables can also be have combinations of numbers and the string. For example, if you are using a font size, how we are going to use? Let me see. Okay, now I'll be giving 20 px. So you are going to use this font size as font size. What did happen? Now it came as a font size of 20 px. So what happens if I give the concatenation of the string and the number? Still taking. Yes, it's a concatenation of the string and the number, but it is not a string because we are not given in a single quote. When you give in a single quotes, you can see the output will be taken as a string. The font size will be not considered. So this is what how the combination of number and string. Now if you want to give the number concatenation, what will happen? 40. So getting, so if you want to add, okay, you can divide, you can multiply. Okay, this is how we are going to use the font size. Okay, then what will happen if you're going to add the initial like of a string called some code and of the numbers called 0, 0. It is taking as a 1, 0 because when you start with a string in the SASS, it won't accept the next as a number. It will take as a string only. If you give 333, getting, because no hexadecimal code, if I use 6 digits, what happens? It will take. But in the same scenario, if you give the 3 digits after the hash of the string, it won't take, because 0 it will be considered, it won't take a number, and because if you are going to use this one in a string, it will be taken. Okay, this is how we are going to use the mixture of the numbers and the strings in the SAS. Be careful while using or declaring the SAS variables in your applications. So this is how you can declare and we make use of this one. And the use of an extend in the SAS. Let us see. Okay, let me see. I have a div with, okay, inside a div I have a h2. I am h2. I am h3. So what happens if you are going to use in the CSS? In the CSS, we'll be using the this precedence, we're using the elements called div h2 and div h3. This is how the output will come when you compile the CSS, and how we are going to use this common CSS for both this h2 and h3. Let me create the common class for both. For that, I have a properties called color, using the font color and using the font size. Okay, so now you have to make use of this common class for both h2 and h3. How we are going to use? Directly you can call h2 comma separated, how we are going to use in h3. So you can use this class by using the keyword called extend in the SAS. Extend of common class. Happen now. As I told you, it will come by the comma separated. It is common for both now. So if you don't want to use the font color as you want, you can change. You can, if you want to see the difference. S00 red. Okay, see, I'm S2, S3. Why the font size is not differing? Because font size we are given in a string. If you don't want 20 px, going to give. Okay. So if you want to increase the font size specifically for that, you can add some more. Now it has been became 40 px. If you see the compile CSS, what happened here? You don't want, because if you, this font size should, this is a default font size, it should not affect the other class where you're using. Because for example, you're using in the test, if you don't want to affect in the test, if you can directly add in the common class, and which is commonly used by H2 and H3. Okay, this is the use of extend class, or in the SASS, or we are going to use the common classes or the reused class names for the known element or the known classes where you want. Okay, hope you got it. Now I have a similar code with first div and second div. So using this class name, I can nest this two. What will happen? Now I'm using the class name as first div. I'm going to nested, having a nested of this one. So I don't want to worry about the other divisions. So I using the, I've been nested the S2 and S3 only inside the first div. This is how the nested will work. So when you see the output of the CSS, you can see the first div of S2, first div of S3. This is how the CSS will compile when the SAS code. So SAS code will be reduce the number of lines of writing the CSS. Okay, this is the use of SAS. Now, what is the use of mixins and how we are going to use? Hope you are clear about till now about the declaration, initialization, and how to use the common classes, or the class where you want to use commonly throughout the application using the extend. Okay, now I'll be going to explain about the mixins. What is the use of mainly mixins? Is nothing about it. It is a mix of the numbers, strings, where it will reduce the lines of code, and where you can use globally throughout the application, and using the class names or the few of the properties where you want to reuse randomly. So you don't want to duplicate the code, you can use the mixins, and you can apply the styles wherever the component wise or the page wise using the mixins. Let me go with the div. I am an mixin. Okay, so I'm an mixin, so I want to have multiple properties by using this one. Now let me create a class, mixin class. So what I'm going to do, so if you want to use a mixin SAS, you have to use at directive using the mixin keyword and the mixin name. What you want to use? I'm a mixin name. I have box. I'm a box. Now I'm going to use this box, and I want the properties for the box called common properties. So these are the common properties where I'm going to use in a mixin. For example, what are the common properties? Color is the common property where, so you will be using the color is a string, so you can also specify the type of string. And what is the one more thing as a common, you can use font size. Okay, this is a type of number. Okay, can bring this width so you can see the code. And what else, you can use a font weight, and you're going to use this one as also a number. So how you are going to assign to the CSS properties? You will have a properties called color, and you're going to assign directly a color. Be careful while using the symbols in the SAS, because it won't accept the other symbols for to throw an error also. Okay, color I'm going to use, and font size is the, what is the parameter we are using? F size. And what font weight, what is that? F weight. So you are going to use font weight. So by using this class name, I'm going to send some properties for this one. What I'm going to send, how we are going to send, let me check. Okay, if you want to send some of the properties for the mixins, you have to use the keyword called at include and followed by the mixin name. What is the first property of the box, you are going to send the color. What are the color code? If you want to send the directly already declared color, you can use this color directly, or you can also send randomly the which color which you want. Okay. And what is the next property? You are going to use font size. So you can also, as I told before, you can use this font size plus the size what you want. I want the 20 font size as the default because the default font size I'm taking into 2. Okay, then the font weight will be something called 600. If you want to declare this one also in a variable, you can declare, and you can also send as a parameter. Now what happened? CSS, something is missing. Yes, if you see now, you can see the mixing class, what all the properties I've sent, what is the CSS compiled CSS, it has been applied now. Okay, 1 second. Font weight, font px, because I've sent here, yeah, font size as a into 2. If I'm going to send 1, what happens? 20.5, 30. See, but the point wise also we are going to send. Now, this is the use of mixing. How it has been used. Same thing. See, we can how it has been reused. So I'm going to use mixing class 1 again. Okay. See, this is a mixing class 1. I'm going to use. So again, make use of that class name. You don't want to duplicate the code. Just copy the class name and send the call the mixing name. Now, if you want to send the different properties, you can send. No, I don't want font size for this one. I want as a 3. No, I want as a 500. So I don't want this color, font color. I don't want the font color, this one, the which is already declared. I want a different font color, something called, or you can directly type the gray, which is not there. Okay. Like this. See. And X. Missing. Be careful while using the class names. It throwing some error because of this. Yes, you can see. You can see now. See, these are the two different properties. By using the one line of code, how we are going to send the parameters and how we are going to make use of the mixins which already declared. This is how we are going to use the extend and a mixin. And in this case, I don't want to send this one in a string, but still it is accepting as a string. How to avoid this one? In the mixin, in the SASS, we have a type of, and where you can have a if directive to throw error message, or we are going to use in the programming, like in the JavaScript or the jQuery languages, something programming we can do using SASS. For example, this has been received, correct? Let us see how we are going to throw an error or a compile time error if it is not a type of a number. So I'm going to use if directive if it is a type of, what is the type of font weight. Let me copy this one. Not equal to number. I want to throw an error message. What is that? In the we have in SAS called some of the directives called debug and warning and error. These are the directives we are going to use in some cases, some use cases where you want to use. In my cases, I'm not using any debug or a warning. Directly I'm going to use the error because I want to know that user to notify you can't send the string instead of numbers. So I'll be commenting this one. For this more information, if you want more information about the debug and the warning, you can go to the SAS documentation and you check, because I'm going to show you the some of the most useful code and mostly used functions used by the developers commonly, or like in the daily basis, how your developers can you're using this type of functions or the mixes extensions. Okay, let me throw an error message called, I'm using the font weight, correct? I'm going to use this font weight What is error message? It is not a number. What is that? It is showing error message because I am passing this one in a string. What it happens if I remove the quotes? See, no, the error one. No, same thing. If you are using any other classes or anywhere you are using this mixin name, and if you are using font weight in a string, it won't accept. It will throw a compile time error. Getting how to use the directives, because in the SASS we don't have only the if or include and this or the if and error warning bug. We have many directives, inbuilt directives, and the functions were used for the CSS for the